Yeah, I guess we could just get started on some of these others now.
Okay.
So, do you have any thoughts on Haim Eshed, who was I guess, the head of the Israeli space organization? Do you think that this was a legitimate disclosure? Do you think this was an attempt to take over the narrative in some way?
I think it was a legitimate disclosure. Yeah, uh, there is this federation that is working closely with Western governments um, that have told us that they're the enemies of the Greys and other groups, and that they're here to help us, but they're really a part of the bad guy syndicate, and they're very, I mean, they're master tricksters. Our governments and militaries are falling for the things that they're doing, hook, line, and sinker. But just think about it. They have two space military factions that are supposedly at war with each other that really secretly aren't. They just use that as a way to come in and have planets and civilizations to fall for this big ruse to become a part of this bigger galactic syndicate that they have. But our militaries do the same thing, or our government, the secret governments. They will really have people on both sides of a conflict, but they will have conflicts happen every once in a while for different reasons, including being able to control people or to bring in more social control structures, as above, so below in that case.
Mhm. I had a question from Bob, who asked if the Nazis may have been given the same nanites that the Orion group uses to control people.
I don't know. They were given technologies. I would imagine it would be beneficial for the reptilian groups to give them nanites as well. But I just don't know.
Right. So after you said that the timeline that we're on will be completely locked in once the solar flash occurs, and this question is, in that event, will we know what timeline was chosen, how positive that timeline is after that event occurs? Will we have any sense of what is going on with our timeline?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how it unfolds, if it unfolds, well, I don't know. I don't know if the average person is going to be able to know the difference, to be honest. Like I said, even the most positive timeline starts off very rough. So I'm sure the people who, when the Anshar were describing how this timeline unfolded, even though that was the most positive timeline, people were dying and suffering. And I'm sure the people thought it was the worst possible timeline. So I don't know if I can really answer that question.
But after the solar event occurs, we will have some sense of freedom from the entity attachments or some of the aspects that have been plaguing us.
It just depends on what timeline we end up on.
I see.
It is, I mean, it does for like about 1,000 years. It prevents a lot of these different negative groups from getting back in just because of the energies. After the solar event, they have to dissipate before all of these different groups can come back in the way they are now.
Well, that's a good amount of time to give us, and yeah,
It is and it's not. I mean, look back 1,000 years in the past and how much have we evolved? How much have we changed? I mean, we've got like cars and planes and that kind of thing, but we're still the same, you know,
yeah.
we're still the same.
Um, so we got a question here. When you were on your second and third 20 and back, did you have a awareness of your prior 20 and back services?
I don't know. I don't know. I only have pieces of I have like maybe 60% recall of the second 20 and back, and maybe 20 or 30% of the third 20 and back.
We have a question that came in a few different places. So if there was an agreement made to switch the power of the financial system over to the East, is the East aware that this is a time period that will be this during this cataclysmic era of time? And will they be controlling the financial system even after the solar event and things start to fall apart?
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. I mean, even if that, or you're pretty sure things are going to end or change at a certain date, the wise thing is to keep things planned and working as if they go on forever. And that, I mean, that's really how things work. People don't say, okay, we'll start like, pulling back in all of these different ways closer to the event. No, they want the world to go on as normal. A vast majority of the people in the East are just as ignorant as the people in the West about the solar event. It's only the people at the top, or the people with the golden tickets that know. Everyone else is, I mean, why would they tell a bunch of minions that work for them who they're not going to save, who they're not going to bring onto their ark? They want those people to be faithful servants till the end and not be disgruntled and wanting to find ways to get their family on board, the ark.
So, question here. I think we've talked about this in general terms, but do you have any thoughts on, the community that you want to be a part of after this event occurs? Would this look like the Ubuntu movement, the concept of contributionism?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm setting myself up as things are, starting to go better for us in business and all of that. Finally, we're going to be investing in property, a place in the mountains, and I'm going to create a little safe zone for a certain amount of people, including my family. I'm not really, stress changes people, and you could have, 12 people that you have an agreement with and you have a piece of land with, and then everything goes to hell, either World War III or the solar event or whatever. And then everybody starts frazzling out in different ways. And you have, it's just the human factor. It's very difficult. So I'm just doing my own tight knit little group community. Is my plan.
Great. There's a question that came in that I think might be valuable to address right away here about the countries that start with I and P that are in conflict there in the Middle East. And do you have any specific intel on what causes that, and what if this is a new thing, if this is just a continuation of an old drama?
There are people who follow an old religion who think that if they manipulate this part of the world and to fulfill in certain prophecies, then they win somehow. I don't fully understand it myself, but there are the people that are, just like I explained earlier, the people who are manipulating the I's against the P's and all of the others are the same people. It's the same freaking people. And they're using hatreds and generational disputes and all of that for this very small area of the most violent, blood-soaked earth on, it's the most blood-soaked ground on the planet, really. So there's a lot of weird energetics there. There are portals, there are underground things that go between Egypt. There's a lot going on there. It is not, it doesn't have to do with ET groups fighting it out. This is all human stuff. And there are human elites who think if they can push us to the Battle of Armageddon, then it sets them up for their plan of destroying big part of Israel, setting up a huge new temple complex dedicated to different religions and man, and all these other things that I've heard that are planned out to totally bring people into a one, between aliens and World War kind of scenarios. They want to finally bring us all together, but I don't know. I don't know how they plan on making that work. They've created such a problem getting people to hate each other. I don't know how, after their grand plan happens, how they think that they're going to be able to control humanity unless they just wipe most of us out. I mean, this group is sick and insidious, and they're very difficult to figure out, because I just had a discussion earlier. A lot of the people that are involved in these generational cults that are a part of this old religion, they've been conditioned to be psychopaths and to be very broken psychological beings from an early age. And they're almost aliens compared to us. They think so differently than us. They look like us, but they might as well be alien shapeshifters, because they're not like us up here at all.
Mm-hmm. Do you suppose that this larger plan was a part of the reason why this country that starts with I was given its own space back in like 1950s after World War II? It was given this controversial agreement that they would have that land.
Everything plays out into prophecy, and everything is intertwined. I don't know if it was specifically set up for that purpose, or if that's just a part it plays in this timeline.
Mm-hmm. All right. On a completely separate subject, we had somebody send us in an article from space.com that said that there's an organization called the Vanishing and Appearing Sources During a Century of Observations, the VASCO project, that has cataloged possibly 800 stars that have gone missing from the night sky. And do you have any idea what would cause that kind of thing to occur?
Yeah, actually, there's a pretty good video that I watched recently about, there were 5 stars that disappeared in a different area. It has to do with expansion of gases and other things in the area. I'll try to remember to put that video up, but yeah, these stars aren't actually disappearing. There's also the toroidal nature of space, and as stars are moved and changed in positions, I mean, sometimes we'll see what we think is a real bright star, but it's a binary or trinary star system, and those 2 stars move further apart, and the overall luminosity drops. So it appears that the star disappeared when it really just turned into 2 or 3 very dim sources, but when they were together, because of gravitational lensing and other effects, it makes it brighter. There are a number of reasons why that occurs. So not everything is, as big of a mystery as a lot of times we want things to be a bigger mystery than they are.
Yeah. So another question came in about, I think this is referencing another researcher in the community who put out a video about some intel that there's an organization that's called Joint Special Operations Command with the United States Special Operations Command, and JSOC, and also Raytheon, and a program called Zodiac, asking if you know anything about these names as being related to the organizations responsible for recovering downed crafts. How do they manage the downed craft issue across different militaries?
Well, there are special groups that work in this. A long time ago, they called it Operation Pounce. but they're not military. They're civilians that work for companies like Raytheon or whatever. If there's a down craft in a certain country or in our country, they may call in the local military to cordon the area off. But for the health of the soldiers coordinating the area off, they better hope they don't get a look at what they're protecting. Usually they have a cover story. There's a chemical spill. Put on your equipment, grab your guns, keep people out of this perimeter. And that's what the military types will be told. And then the specialized civilian group from Raytheon and Lockheed and these other groups, they'll have a group that will, and different groups, it depends on where it happens, where on the planet it happens too. And then these more corporate private groups will come in, follow the protocols for recovery, bring in, then remove it, hire local contractors to come in and bulldoze the area and make the ground look different to where any other explanation would work other than that's imprint of a fuselage of a spacecraft, So it's done in layers, and it goes back to the civilians. Why capture something with the military and then have to go through the process of debriefing all of those people after you pass it on to the civilian group that's going to be doing the work anyway? They just have the civilian group come in, grab it, and take it to their facility. That's how it works.
All right. There's a question here. So you've said in the past that if a being who is infested with nanites in the Orion group, like a reptilian, is killed, that their body will self-destruct. And the question is, why is that the case, that they are not recoverable very easily?
Well, we didn't know about nanites until we finally did recover their body. We didn't know that the reptilians were infested with them, because they would self-destruct and just leave a husk of a body. And you wouldn't be able to even have the neurology that had, because the neurology gets really funky with the nanites. The neurology goes through the nanites, and they're embedded into the neurology, and muscle tissue and all of that. So when they vaporize, they take out large areas that would be useful for people to study in a lab. It took them, they had theories of what was going on. They figured out that there was they thought it was kind of like a poison pill, cyanide pill, that like the reptilians had, to where it's like a suicide destroy evidence button. But over time, they came to a theory that it was some sort of technology. They developed, through trial and error, a dampening field that they used to bathe the reptilians in during a battle. The reptilians died. They didn't vaporize. They kept them under this energy bath until they dissected them. And that's when they started finding all of the nanites and how interwoven with the physiology they had become.
Very interesting. So let's go to a question here about the Council of Nine. There's in the Law of One books, there's discussion of the Council of Saturn is having a very large role, and there's other books that have come out that were channeled that call apparently the same group the Council of Nine. Do you have any specific information about that group? Was that ever talked about in the program, that there's an ET hierarchy that is influencing the whole solar system in some way?
That wasn't in the programs. There are different groups that have 7 and 9 members, so that are here to observe. Most of them are here as watchers, observers, as a part of this greater galactic civilized body. I don't know how to describe it. That report back and are witnesses basically. But there are groups around Saturn because of the dynamics of Saturn and the portals that open up around Saturn. A lot of what people think are in our solar system kind of are. It hasn't really made it through cleanly through channeling, but I described it earlier about the layers of onion of different dimensions that exist here. Some of these beings, that's where they are. That's where they're from. And they just come here and they observe here. They have kind of like telescopes that open up and let them to look and experience everything here, So the vernacular and what was used in channeling, it is limited. Because what's happening out there aren't really the words and concepts here to even begin to describe. So a lot is lost, even though, people a lot of people really trust channelings. There is stuff that is lost. But I don't know of a group in our dimension, in our solar system, around our Saturn that is on a base or in that it says that they're the Council of Nine. The only thing I know of in that area is the Super Federation base, and that's not even in our solar system. It's in its own dimension. So we're just now beginning to understand dimensions and temporal types of things. Like 10 years from now, people, when they understand more about these types of things, if they were to bring a channeled message, it would be completely different than one in the 80s, 90s, or 2000s because of our level of understanding and a whole lot of other factors that people probably don't want to hear about because they love their channelings.
So we got a question here from an active member here who says, in terms of disclosure, what info do you guys recommend we first spread? And I actually created the recommended viewing series category on EssentialWorks TV just to have some really easy to access information there, including the latest David Grush information. So that would be my recommendation. But do you have anything?
Yeah, I would just point people right now towards David Grush and then the different people in Congress that are taking this very seriously, and have them focus on that, because that alone is very sobering for your average citizen who's their whole life has been told that it's total BS and only crazy people talk about it. And now you're seeing these congressional representatives and highly intelligent, obviously intelligent engineers and military type people discussing it very seriously. That's all we need right now.
Okay, we'll answer the question. You've previously said that the solar event, the Earth's axis tilts, when the Earth axis tilts and then tilts back again, do you know if it tilts back immediately or after a period of time, after many years? And is that action what's causing the shift in the tides? And is there going to be like two different, tidal shifts because of that?
I would imagine it happens over days.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The question: are you going to do any webinars like this in the future? And I think it'd be great if we did. I think I'm voting for that. We could.
I mean, as they become more, when they're appropriate, as certain information comes out, we'll probably start doing more, like even more emergency kind of webinars on certain topics, but it'll be when kind of bigger chunks of information come out.
Yep. All right. We have a question that is about the nature of all the sorrow on Earth and feeling like this is basically like why would God put us through suffering kind of question.
He didn't, we did.
Yeah.
We actively do it. We actively perpetuate, our generational bullshit. It's just we constantly perpetuate it. It's us. God didn't create us to be all loving and happy all the time. That's heaven, right? Earth is exactly what it was designed to be. It's a very rough, ass-kicking school. It's where you come to learn, teach until you get to a certain point, and then you're off to another sphere. That's the way it's worked for a long time. And it's that because of the gravitational density of our solar system and our planet, it's just how it affects consciousness, how it affects time. It creates this type of dynamic. Now that changes as it goes through its own ascension. Our star and planet, they're graduating, it's a slow process, and it was never meant to be a kumbaya, everybody love each other kind of existence. I mean, that we love that, but that's maybe what happens on another plane. Maybe someday after certain events and certain changes, it'll be like that on Earth, and we can aspire for it to be like that. But this reality is serving the purpose it was designed for. And we're going through the meat grinder. That was part of the plan. So that's part of God's plan for all of this to happen, for all of these experiences to occur. On different planets that have different dynamics, they have different experiences. It's happening across the cosmos through and other dimensions as well. Anything that could be possible is possible throughout these different experiences, realities, and dimensions. And the thing that we think of as God is sitting back, thinking about the good, the bad, the ugly, imagining how it all plays out and is a part of it. It's not God, there's God and then the devil and the bad stuff. It's all the creator. It's all happening within the creator. And that doesn't go along with a lot of people's concepts of religion and God, the man on the throne and the beard. But I'm sorry, I'm way, way past those types of concepts.
Do you have any thoughts on the nature of dark energy or dark matter?
Plays into into the various densities, but it also has to do with torsion. They don't understand the torsion universe. A lot of what they think is dark energy or extreme electromagnetic twists and pulls. Dark matter, I think, is just a misunderstanding of the electromagnetic universe. There are different energies produced in ways that we don't understand that we could call dark energies, but the dark matter thing, I think, is eventually going to be disproven.
Okay.
Or recategorized so that it is proven, but not really proven, but you know how science works.
Mm-hmm. All right. I guess this is a question that comes up periodically. Do you feel like the Anshar timeline you were shown is still the timeline that we're on?
Not right now.
What are the differences?
Like I said, timeline is constantly changing and splitting and coming back together. It does that all the way up until the event. So we're going to be writing this right all the way until the event. But it does seem to me, and evidence that I've been getting from the Anshar and others, that humans are indeed hell-bent on trying to choose another non-positive timeline.
But with enough work, we can switch back to the positive timeline.
With enough work and expansion and all of that, but we will just see what happens. The odds are against us to begin with, and it depends on whether we're going to be our own hero or if we're going to just continue to play the victim. It's not our fault. How can we do this? If we do that, then yeah, we're going to end up in another negative timeline until we figure it out.
So the basics of what defines a positive timeline would be that we set ourselves on a path such that within 1,000 years we can be united as a planet.
I mean, that's part of it. It also has to do with rejecting transhumanism, but it's mostly the spiritual, uh, psychological, spiritual side of things that would bring us more into vibratory unity with the rest of our cosmic cousins out there. But I don't know. We will see. I am not seeing a whole lot of confidence from many different groups that we are going to choose the optimal timeline. We may choose a timeline that will lead us to the optimal timeline after another cycle, another 20 something thousand years. But I'm told that at most we'll have one more cycle before we make it to a positive timeline.
And that means 25,000 years.
25 or 28, I can't remember.
Mm-hmm. I'm going back to older questions. There's so many, but I guess I should go back to the chat here for people who are actually attending. So this person asked, how far above sea level is likely safe from any tidal shifting?
I think it has to do with position, being between mountain ranges and the ocean. The west of the Rockies is not ideal, and like east of, what is it, the Appalachians, and what's the other mountain range? But the
Ozarks.
Ozarks, yeah, in that area. You'll find most of the people that are billionaires or what are engineers that know what's going on are building their safe places in between those two mountain ranges.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of specific questions about other individuals, probably not worth covering right now. So there's some people who ask about the idea that, should I really concern myself with the solar event since I can just die and reincarnate? Is it important to focus on survival, or is it important to focus on maintaining the positive vibration as much as possible?
That's up to you. That's up to you. I know a lot of people that are like, I'm just going to live on the beach, and when it happens, I'm going to go, praise God, woo, and welcome the waves. All right, that's good. Some people are like, I'm going to make a bunker. I'm going to make sure that my family's taken care of. That's good. That's up to you.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. When it happens, you will have made a decision by not making a decision.
And do you have any estimate of how many people are likely to survive those initial events?
I don't know. I'm not hopeful. I mean, 80% of the world's population lives on the coast.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that there's a possibility that we could get to the point where people are at least convinced that they should move away from the coast?
I think that it's not just going to one day, news broadcast, the sun just exploded. We think that the ocean's going to, you got 6 minutes until the ocean goes, no, it's going to build up. We're going to start seeing things. They're going to be like weird volcanic things. Like I said, the weather is going to get weirder and weirder, and there's going to be weird electrical phenomena in the sky. It's going to build up, and the people that they're going to be people that just innately are going to decide, I need to get to a safe place. There's something going on. I feel a need to get somewhere. And there are other people that are just going to be blissfully ignorant throughout the whole process. And it's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
I know everybody wants it to be they're looking for hope in it, but it's a global catastrophe event. It's going to be horrible, and coming back from it's going to be a challenge, those who choose to come back from it. Otherwise, you enter the incarnation cycle again and wait for population to start building out so you can have another experience. People are so programmed to just love their life. Their ego, their experience that they're having right now, right here, is so freaking important to them. They just don't understand that you don't really ever die, that your ego, your identity may die and perish, but you go on to have another one, and you retain that information. And it, I don't know, people have a really almost irrational fear of dying, and we're all going to die. If you die when you're 90 years old, you'll have 90 years of experience. If you die when you're 40 in this event, you will die with those experiences. None of us are going to live forever. None of us are going to get out of this experience alive. None of us are going to make it out of it alive. We're all going to die. Accept that that's a part of your process, that even if we live through the solar event and we make it to the optimal timeline, you're still going to die. You're just going to die on the good timeline. We're all going to die. Get over it. Get used to it. Get comfortable with it. Embrace it. Try to create a life to where when it does come to the point and you pass away, you're like victorious. You're like, man, I did everything. Yeah, and you leave the place better than when you were here. Don't fight tooth and toenail as if death is coming in a hooded robe and pulling you out of your bed by your ankles. That concept of death is the worst thing for humanity, especially as compressed of lives as we live as it is in this cycle. But that's one of the things I've noticed. I talk about the solar event at events, everything. There's people out there going, I'm like, these people don't get it. They don't understand the full spiritual nature of things. It's all still about their ego and their perception of their identity and preserving that. So society has really dumbed us down to what we are, and that's a byproduct of it.
Maybe it'd be fair to talk about that there are many religious groups that believe that they will be able to become like the stories of the Indian saints who, could levitate, and they could seemingly transmute their physical form or bilocate and those kinds of things. You think there's a percentage of society that's very, very small that will actually be able to reach a certain point of consciousness where they can manifest food in front of themselves and that kind of thing?
No. The people that are pretty close to that point, these gurus that are in the caves meditating like 12 hours a day, when they get to that blissful moment, they just transcend. They don't want to stay here. When you get that far advanced, you become that far advanced, you just leave. You ascend. You don't become Superman and do all these parlor tricks, flying around and blinking shit in with your mind. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it works. People, when you get to a certain level of understanding spiritually and to a certain vibration, the people in the caves that have been working their entire life to get to this point, when they reach it, they get the hell out of here. They ascend out to a higher plane that's going to service them better. This, like I said, this dimension, all the turmoil and everything going on, it only serves us for so long in our evolution. After that, we don't need it. And for us to even talk about sticking around and hovering and manifesting food with our brains and all that, that's just stupid Marvel DC BS. I'm sorry. That's not how it works. And enlightened beings, you don't see them walking around, because when they become enlightened enough, they phase the hell out of here.
But they could still be on a mission to help humanity in various ways.
Yes, but when they do that, they go through the incarnation process again.
Hmm.
They don't become, like, let's say if you like blink out when you get to like a certain frequency, they don't like get to that point and say, oh, instead of blinking out, I'm going to stay here and be like a superhero Superman to inspire the rest of humanity. That's just not how it works.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not how it
interesting.
works. They have to go back through the incarnation cycle and teach people these things by relearning and re-experiencing it themselves. I mean, I don't know. This isn't a
Yeah,
DC.
that is essentially hinted at in the Law of One books when they say that people who activate intelligent infinity could choose to leave their bodies, but usually choose not to in order to be of service. But then you're stuck still with the same third density lessons and challenges that you were before.
It is impossible to exist in this density when you reach a certain vibration, unless you lower your vibration. Certain energies cannot exist within other energy fields. These highly evolved spiritual vibratory beings, when you reach a certain frequency, it's all of a sudden you can't see what's around you anymore. You're like in a different world. It's a different. It, it's not. It's not. You can't just choose to like grunt and okay, I can stay here as long as I can. You cannot exist within a certain energy when you get to a certain point. You're off to the next experience. If you choose to stay in that prior frequency, you have to dumb down your frequency to do so. And that's where reincarnation comes in. They go through that process again.
Right. Any thoughts on the value of diet right now? Is this still very important that we focus on avoiding certain things?
Diet's always important. Your body's your physical temple, your avatar for your consciousness, and the more healthy your body is, the better you can serve your purpose while you're here. And the more pleasant your experience will be. If you're suffering through heart disease and all of these different things because you ate poorly or didn't exercise, that just inhibits you, but it also might add to your experience. That might be what you came here to experience. So, yeah, it's always a good idea to have a clean, healthy diet to make sure you're, you're up to par.
And detoxing from heavy metals, you've mentioned in the past too.
Yeah, it's good to always detox from different things, including metals, parasites, those types of things.
Another question came in here. What is the likelihood of a Carrington kind of event with a wide grid shutdown that could happen years before the solar event? And will we remain off grid up until the event if that kind of thing happened?
Uh, it just depends. If a Carrington type of event happened now we would be down, yeah, for like many months. If a moderate event happened, it wouldn't keep us down for more than a year or two before we were able to bring out all the replacement technologies. They would have to build them from scratch. Yeah, I think that's my answer. Sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice.
All right. We can wrap up pretty soon.
Yeah, we need to, because I'm like rapidly losing my voice.
All right. One more question here, sent in by Will. If a natural portal opens up, would you see it? Would you be able to walk into it and not even realize what happened?
No, you wouldn't see it. And there's all different levels and energetic charges of portals. There are the physical portals that open every once in a while that you will be able to see the sky and of another place, and you can get caught into it. But typically, most of them are just energetic portals between places, and you have to have technology to allow you to utilize it to travel. But shamans will use it to travel out of body, to go to other dimensions and other planets to gain wisdom.
Right, one more question now I'm piecing together that might help some people. So let's say that somebody has done their homework and they've done the work that the raw contact would say is making them eligible for harvest, and then the Earth goes still into a negative timeline. Does that person find a different planet, or do they stick around with Earth to try to help Earth ascend?
There's just too many variables. Where are you originally from? Are you a star seed? What is your agreement when you come into this planetary sphere? What group are you with? There are different groups that have come here purposefully to incarnate to do things. There are so many variables there, but different groups will at times harvest planets if they're going too much in the negative direction. If they go and if they do take the positives away to bring them to another planet, what chance does it ever have of getting on top of its cycle to getting to positive? If you're constantly pulling all the positive people out, you need them to reincarnate back in and have more experiences and affect more people to where it slowly, raises the consciousness of the whole group. But like I said, there are too many variables. Things are never cut and dry. This is, that's just not, there's so much going on.
Would it be fair to say that the way that the higher density beings who choose to incarnate here will look at this as more like a rescue mission or a humanitarian mission to incarnate here and keep on working on it until it's solved?
Yeah, I mean, the outside beings do see that. The beings that are just part of like the original, if you want to call it that, cycle, I don't think we really reach that point. We're too far down in the cycle. I'm too caught up in the fractured psyche. It's the people coming in from other groups that are really making the difference. Star seeds that are coming in and making the slight differences. It's just this weird cycle that Earth has to where humans show very, very little growth, very little growth. So it's very difficult. It's like, trying to have a date farm in the middle of the desert in an area where there's no oasis, and you're trying to raise or trying to raise these beautiful crops in an area where they won't. It's not fertile ground, and it takes a long time to grow in this ground, and many seasons.
And I think it's probably fair to remind people that this is essentially the after effects of all the baggage that wasn't properly processed on Maldek and Mars when they had their issues, and we're still just, and Atlantis couldn't handle the advanced technologies, and they went in negative directions apparently. Those civilizations, pre-Adamites, and now we're at a point where we're still dealing with some of that old baggage, right?
Exact same. We do not have the spiritual or emotional intelligence to handle the technologies that we're developing. We don't, and we're going to continue to self-destruct like those other examples. That's just what's going to continue to happen until we reach a certain point.
Right. Well, I guess that's a good message then, to keep focused on the spiritual side of it as long as we pursue anything with disclosure.
Yeah. Sorry, my voice is keeling out on me now.
All right. Well, this is very great chat. Appreciate everybody who attended and signed up for the webinar. And hopefully keep on participating in the chats with Corey sessions. We'll keep on doing Q&A with Corey.
Yes.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, everybody.
Take care.